In 1974, humanity sent a powerful radio message into space, aimed at a distant star cluster in the hope of communicating with extraterrestrial intelligence. It was a carefully constructed digital signal that contained basic information about Earth and its inhabitants. But what exactly did the message contain? And what does it reveal about us? Tonight, we delve into the Arecibo Message, and the reply we got years later. The Arecibo Message is an interstellar radio message, carrying basic information about humanity and Earth that was sent to the globular cluster Messier 13 in 1974. It was meant as a demonstration of human technological achievement, rather than a real attempt to enter into a conversation with extraterrestrials. The message was broadcast into space a single time via frequency-modulated radio waves at a ceremony to mark the remodeling of the Arecibo telescope in Puerto Rico on 16th November 1974. The message was aimed at the current location of M13, about 25,000 light-years from Earth, because M13 was a large and relatively close collection of stars that was available in the sky at the time and place of the ceremony. The content of the message was developed by Frank Drake, creator of the Drake equation, then professor of astronomy at Cornell and now a professor in the Division of Natural Sciences at the University of California at Santa Cruz and the president of the SETI Institute. Richard Isaacman, then a Cornell graduate student and now working at Integral Systems Incorporated in Lanham, Maryland. Linda May, another graduate student, now professor of physical sciences at Wheelock College in Massachusetts, and James C.G. Walker, then a member of the Arecibo staff and now professor of physical sciences at the University of Michigan at Ann Arbor. Others, especially the late Carl Sagan, who eventually became the David Duncan Professor of Astronomy and Space Sciences at Cornell, contributed to the project. As globular cluster M13, at which the message was aimed, is more than 25,000 light-years from Earth, the message, traveling at the speed of light, will take at least 25,000 years to arrive there. By that time, the core of M13 will no longer be in precisely the same location, because of the orbit of the star cluster around the galactic center. Even so, the proper motion of M13 is small, so the message will still arrive near the center of the cluster. The message consists of 7 parts that encode the following: the numbers 1 to 10, the atomic numbers of the elements hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, which make up deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. The formulas for the chemical compounds that make up the nucleotides of DNA. The estimated number of DNA nucleotides in the human genome, and a graphic of the double helix structure of DNA. The dimension, physical height 5'9", of an average man. A graphic figure of a human being, and the human population of Earth, which was about 4 billion at the time. A graphic of the solar system, including Pluto, indicating which of the planets the message is coming from. The Sun is on the left and the third planet, Earth, raised toward the human figure. A graphic of the Arecibo radio telescope and the dimension of the transmitting antenna dish. The entire message consisted of 1,679 binary digits, approximately 210 bytes, transmitted at a frequency of 2,318 MHz, and modulated by shifting the frequency by 10 Hz, with a power of 450 kilowatts. The ones and zeros were transmitted by frequency shifting at the rate of 10 bits per second. The total broadcast was less than 3 minutes long. The number 1679 was chosen because it is a semi-prime, the product of 2 prime numbers, to be arranged rectangularly as 73 rows by 23 columns. Here's what the message looks like in its binary string form. And here's the graphic representation to help us interpret it better. Let's go over the parts. The numbers from 1 to 10 appear in binary format, to be read from the top down. The bottom row contains markers which indicate the column from which the binary code for each number is intended to begin. Even assuming that any extraterrestrial recipients would recognize binary, the encoding of the numbers may not be immediately obvious because of the way they have been written. To read the first 7 digits, ignore the bottom row, and read them as 3 binary digits from top to bottom, with the top digit being the most significant. The readings for 8, 9, and 10 are a little different, as their binary code has been distributed across an additional column next to the first. This is intended to show that numbers too large to fit in a single column can be written in several contiguous ones. The additional columns are not marked by the least significant digit marker. The numbers 1, 6, 7, 8, and 15 appear, denoting the atomic numbers of hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus, the elements from which DNA is composed. The chemical groups from which the nucleotides of polymeric DNA sequences are built, the sugar deoxyribose, phosphate, and the 4 canonical nucleobases used in DNA, are then described as sequences of the 5 elements that appear on the preceding line. Each sequence represents the molecular formula of the chemical as it exists when incorporated into DNA. To help even further, the compound in the top left in the image is deoxyribose, C5H7O, in DNA, C5H10O4 when free, whose formula is read as 7 atoms of hydrogen, 5 atoms of carbon, 0 atoms of nitrogen, 1 atom of oxygen, and 0 atoms of phosphorus. A graphic of the approximate shape of the double helix in which double-stranded DNA polymers naturally exist. The vertical bar in the middle is a binary representation of the number of nucleotide base pairs in the human genome. The value depicted is around 4.3 billion, which was believed to be the case when the message was transmitted in 1974. It is now known that there are approximately 3.2 billion base pairs in the human genome. The graphic in the center is a simple illustration of a human being. The element on the left indicates the average height of an adult male in the US, 1.764 meters, 5 foot 9.4 inches. This value is indicated by a horizontally written binary representation of the number 14, which is intended to be multiplied by the wavelength of the message, 126 millimeters. 14 times 126 equals 1,764 millimeters. The element on the right of the image indicates the size of the global human population in 1974, approximately 4.3 billion, which, coincidentally, is within 0.1% of the number of DNA base pairs suggested for the size of the human genome earlier in the message. In this case, the number is oriented in the data horizontally rather than vertically. The least significant digit marker is in the upper left in the image, with bits going to the right and more significant digits below. A graphic depicting the solar system, showing the Sun and 9 planets in the order of their distance from the Sun: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Earth is a 3rd planet from the Sun. Its graphic is shifted up to identify it as the planet from which the signal was sent. Additionally, the human figure is shown just above the Earth graphic. In addition to showing position, the graphic provides a general, not-to-scale size reference of each planet and the Sun. The last part is a graphic representing the Arecibo radio telescope, and indicating its diameter with a binary representation of the number 2,430. Multiplying by the wavelength of 126 millimeters gives 306.18 meters, or 1,004 foot 6 inches. In this case, the number is oriented horizontally, with the least significant digit marker to the lower right in the image. The part of the image that resembles the letter M is there to demonstrate that the curved line is a concave curved mirror. But Nathan, I hear you cry. So we sent a message into space, not expecting a response? That's exactly right. Now, that doesn't mean that we weren't ever hopeful for a response. Of course, we'd love to be able to have some kind of a communication with any of the potential life forms out there. Whether you believe in that or not is irrelevant. The fact is, this is something incredibly impressive that humanity was able to do, and I think it's within like 10,000 light. There's a slim margin of error about like where it was going to go and everything. Really cool, really great. But yet again, we got a response. Let's talk about the following. On August 14th, 2001, a member of the Chilbolton radio telescope in Hampshire, England, spotted something strange in a field outside. One of the most elaborate crop circles ever seen. It became known as the Hampshire Pattern, or Chilbolton Code Formation, or Arecibo Answer, which echoed the visual representation and most of the information from the original Arecibo Message, with some significant differences. The SETI Institute Online rebutted the idea that this was a genuine extraterrestrial response by saying, "This is highly improbable. There is no evidence to suggest an other than earthly origin for these graphics. The crop circle is a near replica of the Arecibo Message, with the same 23 by 73 grid. Most of the chemical data remains the same, with the exception that in the section detailing important chemical elements, silicon has been added, and the diagram of DNA had been rewritten. At the bottom, the pictogram of a human is replaced with a figure with a large bulbous head. A solar system with 9 planets is also depicted, with emphasis placed on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th planets of the system. The Arecibo telescope is replaced by a replica of a crop circle that appeared in the same field 1 year before, and the binary representation of the transmitter's diameter is altered. The creator of the Arecibo Answer has never been officially identified. While there have been many theories and speculations, no one has come forward to claim responsibility for the crop formation. The general consensus among scientists and experts is that it was likely created by humans as an elaborate hoax or artistic project. And there you have it. It's not aliens that have contacted us. At least, I can't imagine they would have done it like this, right? I mean, why, out of all the things, come back many, many years later? I'm not too confused by that aspect, because yet again, if you're communicating with the stars, who knows how long it'll take and everything like that jazz. I totally get that. But why 100% replicate the message that was given as a crop circle, right? It just continues leading credence into the idea that a lot of aliens just land and do stuff. Whereas I understand the idea of a crop circle being a spaceship has landed in a spot and it takes off from that spot, in which case it leaves the imprint of it being there. That makes sense if that were the case. But in this, it's almost like they took lawnmowers and cutting devices and surgically printed this out like a receipt on a random field in the UK. Not in Puerto Rico, where the message originated from. It's just kind of weird, right? There's many things about this that it definitely feels like it's some kind of a hoax. Somebody's playing a prank in some aspect. Not the most surprising thing, especially for the UK. Look, I might be English myself, but I'm just saying, even we get up to shenanigans, right? Nothing wrong with that. Nobody's been harmed. At least it was heavily debunked quite quickly, so I don't feel like it's too problematic of a thing. Either way, the Arecibo Message and the Arecibo Answer, I hope I brought you a little bit more information here. If you have any theories of your own, or maybe there are other things you think I should be investigating, give you more answers on, please let me know in the comments down below. The more that you enjoy this sort of work, the more of it I'll most likely do. I'm quite happy to do these sort of fun investigations, especially if it means I get to learn a few weird things along the way. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you to the YouTube and Patreon members who've been supporting this channel so far. This has been a fantastic effort. Thank you so much. I couldn't do any of this without your support, really. I really can't. Thank you. Patreon now has exclusive ad-free videos. I know, quite a cool benefit, I gotta say. Can't do it on YouTube, sadly, just on Patreon only. It's a whole thing. There are many ways to support the channel, but becoming a member is probably one of the best ones. Support us today.